Hi guys. I didn't find a video that I really liked on ode poetry. A lot of them seemed really crummy, so I decided to make my own. This is what Mrs. Schurz looks like on the weekend when she doesn't have to come into work. All right, so ode poetry. It's a very traditional and formal style of poetry. Let's see. It expresses appreciation, often for another person or feelings, emotions, or even just something. It can usually deal with some big, serious themes such as love and justice, truth and beauty. Um, there are many different types of odes. Each of them has their different sort of structure and the way it's expected to be written, but we're not going to worry about getting into all of those. We're just gonna stick with a very basic form of odes. All right. Alrighty, let's see. We need to talk about figurative language. Okay. So you guys might have talked about this a little bit last year with Miss Bell or whoever your teacher was last year. But let's do a quick review of a few pieces of figurative language. Figurative language is used a lot in poetry, and it's a way of saying something without directly stating it. Makes the writing a little more interesting to read and can sometimes actually give the reader more emotions than just coming out and saying, I was really sad. Okay, so three major types that we'll talk about: similes, metaphors, and personification. A simile compares two things using like or as. So, for instance, the stars shined like diamonds in the sky. We're comparing two things, stars and diamonds, and we use like or as in the middle. A metaphor. A metaphor also compares two things, but one thing just is another. This bed is a rock. I'm comparing my bed to a rock. One thing is another. There's no like or as in there. And the last one we're going to talk about is personification. Personification takes something that is not human in any way, an object, occasionally an animal, and it gives it a human like quality. So, for instance, my blanket gave me a warm hug. Well, blankets aren't humans and they can't actually give you a hug. Though rather nice and they keep you warm, they can't give you a hug because they're not a person. But by saying that it gave me a hug, something that a human would do, it gives it personification. It makes it like a person. All right, so let's see. What else do we need to cover here? All right. The word ode comes from the Greek word aidin, which means to sing or to chant. And that's because odes were typically performed by people along with music. So, really, kind of like a song. Um, and a traditional ode is really long. Don't worry, I won't make us read really long ones. And they're usually very formal. So they have a very specific way that they're written, and the language that's used is very formal language. So you guys know how we have told you before you can't write in text speak, or you need to use academic language rather than the way you would speak at home. Well, that goes for this poetry too. It's very formal and very traditional. So when we read, you'll find they'll use, bigger, fancier words. And so I expect you, when you work on your odes later, to use bigger and fancier words. Um, Many modern poets, though, are kind of dabbling with these rules a little bit to try and make it interesting for readers like you so that more people get into poetry again. We will be reading a poem by Pablo Neruda, and his is an ode. And I think that's it. So make sure you fill out your worksheet on odes and lyrics and make sure you watch the other lyric video. All right, thanks, guys.